Hello everyone, it's James.
And Debra.
We have had so many requests over the last number of years since I started the Treehouse Talks over 10 years ago. All of them coming to one thing. How do you guys do your relationship? You've been together for over 30 years. You've raised two amazing young people. And so we decided we're going to do a weekly segment talking about the power of relationships, the science, the research, the spirituality, and all the goodness that helps relationships to thrive.
Absolutely, and it's so fun that I actually made my way into this treehouse opportunity, so thank you for having me. This is fun. We've been wanting to do this for a really long time, and just to be really clear, this isn't about relationship therapy podcast, but it's about what we know and believe that makes relationships really thrive and last and be successful.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting, Deb and I, when we started our relationship, was literally back when we were in pre-med, Portland, Oregon, over 30 years ago. And one of the things I've always been puzzled by when so many people talk about the fact that they had so many challenges that they could not overcome. And I know that's real. And Deb and I often think about the fact that when we first came together, we were both in different relationships at the time, but we've started to learn a lot very early on about the power of certain things such as values and values that overlap and how powerful they are. And we got a chance to witness that firsthand when we were not in relationship, but our values absolutely came together.
Totally. It was developing a really powerful friendship, which we were, I think, mutually attracted and drawn to one another when we discovered that we had so many of the same rituals and habits that were aligned. And we just had so much fun together as friends. And remember those friendships way back when you would talk on the phone for hours and hours? This is the landline era. So it started with that, I would say. But even before that, let's talk about where we met outside of school and just kind of that serendipity, that same place, same time.
You know, I'm just having a flashback looking over at you right now because literally there was a gym, a health club that was in
Cascade 205.
Cascade 205
Right?
in Portland, Oregon, where they opened at 5 in the morning. And I would literally get there maybe 10 minutes before 5. And within literally moments after I parked my car, I would look over to the left, and sure enough, this zealot would come driving in and park right next to me. I was like, oh my gosh, number one, she's beautiful. And
Actually, I didn't park right next to you.
You didn't? Where'd you
I
park?
was too nervous.
I
didn't want to be, I think it was just like, ooh, I think he knows me, and I think that we're in school together, but I think maybe a couple spots away.
Okay, a couple spots away, but I could still see her. And I think that for anyone who has some type of thing, they go, how did we first meet? And if you had a time that you met that you had a situation around you that really spoke to a value system. So both Debra and I at that time didn't have any extra money, but we had a powerful ritual around self-care. So this gym was completely empty. The parking lot was empty. The gym was empty, except for this person and me. And that was the beginning of going, wow, there's someone who really cares about her health. There's someone who's dedicated to getting up. Here's someone who does something that's hard every single morning, long before the research came out on how powerful it is when we choose to do something hard every single morning.
Yeah, first thing in the morning, I would say. And given that, as you'll learn more about us during these times together, but that we had very similar patterns of past behaviors, or whether it's like you're drinking a lot the night before, but interesting that we were always still committed to being early risers and getting up and moving our bodies as a way of just dealing, as a way of making us feel better, number one, because as you've always said, all motion creates positive emotion. Totally. That's just what we needed to do as a way to sort of control things that maybe were outside of our control in other areas.
Yeah, and I think the beautiful thing, maybe it's something for us all to think about in your relationships or relationship you're working on, one that you would love to have, is looking at the data that speaks to how shared values are such an important part of allowing for an intimacy to thrive, trust to thrive, joy to thrive. And when, I think something that we've learned over these last 30 years, relationships can start where there's a lot of values that are kind of lining up, and then we grow. And oftentimes we can grow together, and more the values just line up, and there's a beautiful weaving of that energy. And sometimes we find in relationships where the values are growing apart, the rituals are not there. And I think one of the things that we've learned, and if I can actually put this in a way that you would love to chime in, sweetheart, because I think the thing that you and I've learned is that we have some things that we really love to do together, but we also have some things that we love to do separately that help us to do better things together. And one of the things that we've learned is I'm a little bit more of an early riser. I'm up around 4 o'clock, 4:30. So I'm already in the gym, making things happen in our basement, maybe an hour and 10 minutes before Deb shows up. One of the things I've learned is that because I have an hour behind me already, I've Peloton, I've lifted some weights, I've done some yoga, I've done some breathing practice, probably have even been the cold plunge. My energy level is already, way up there. Deb comes down the stairs and sometimes blah, 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 blah. And I've learned over the last number of years, and frankly, I'm just starting to really understand it. Chill out, James. She's just starting her ritual. And you have to honor her ritual and give her space. And then when she's done, a ritual that we've been doing, well, do you want to
time out? I need to chime in.
Yes, you do.
So there's also, aside from I'm not naturally a 4:30, I'm more of a 5:30, but I intentionally wait that hour to give you the space because I think that's really important. I really need solo time in the morning. So my new ritual, and I'm not even sure it's healthy, but I activate my brain. So I do breathing in before I'm getting out of bed, and then I do Wordle and connections and those things with my daughters, with my mom and my sister. We share our results. So I am activating my brain, and then I can go down and engage. But it used to be that I would go down and I'm just getting ready to get into my thing, and he's like talking. And I was like, I just need to be quiet and this time for me. And I think what's really cool about that, and I say this to new parents, I say this to people just starting on their relationship journey. It's really important for your partner, your child, your infant even, to see you taking care of yourself, because when you can be better in yourself, you can be better in relationship.
Absolutely. And it's something that we've learned together since that time at Cascade 205 about the practice, because Deb would go to a different part of the gym, I'm in a different part, and we would every now and then run by each other and smile and maybe say hello. But I think the thing that I really love about what you just said, and this is something I hope all of us can kind of look to, is that the power of ritual is not just something that gets connected to exercise or prayer or meditation. It's anything that we do with intention. One thing we have learned over these last number of years, and I think something we started doing literally 20 plus years ago, is after we were both done doing our exercise and our meditation, we had religiously, every single morning, taking a walk together. And in that walk, we sometimes talk the whole time, sometimes we're silent, sometimes we're solving problems, talk about the kids, talk about our businesses. But that walk, and then you look at the power of the relationship around the idea of walking, being outdoors, forest bathing, doing it with someone that you love. There's so many pieces of neurochemistry and physiology that does the parts of building trust, building intimacy, building that connection that literally serves as a foundation for the rest of the day. And I think for a lot of people whose lives move fast, first thing in the morning, they may spend that time, having their coffee, looking at their phone, maybe watching the news. That's a very different physiology when you do that, especially when you're doing it alone. But there's no question that when we do things that's a little bit more internal, a little bit more spiritual in the sense of our self-care and the connection to that, that sets a tone and a tempo for how the relationship will go the rest of the day, regardless of whether or not you're even together. Because that foundation of having that first thing in the morning does cement in a level of intimacy and trust that neurochemically helps us to bond. So for the next 8, 10, 12 hours that we're not together, when we do come back together, that's already in place and looking to be reignited.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that part full circle, because I recognize that not everyone has the flexibility and schedule that we have. We have curated our careers and our life in such a way that early beginning, early start, everything James is talking about, that's done by 7:30 a.m. the early morning wake up meditation, workout, hot tub, cold plunge, walk, we're done by 7:30. But if you start work at 8, that could be hard. And maybe you have different careers that offer different situations. And if you're not in relationship, just as a solo person working on your self-care, you got to figure out what works for you. We're going to talk more in the future, I think, about circadian rhythms, ultradian rhythms, and really optimizing our own physiology to find that sweet spot of what time works. But to piggyback on what you're saying, bonus points if you have a dog, because the dog, honestly, we're dog fanatics, we're dog people. And so it's such our greatest joy to get the dog out. And that's part of the motivation. It's a huge part of the motivation. Like, we can't do anything until we get the dog out, but it is about being together. And if you've parented teenagers, there was a period of time when, boy, did we need to process. We needed to figure out what, how, when, why, how to deal with challenging situations with parenting. And that was the perfect time because we could leave a lot of baggage, yucky stuff on the trail, on the road, on the hike, and really get to the point of coming from love and what's going to be the more powerful solution to whatever we're dealing with as a family. And it was like our saving grace, I would say.
Yeah, I think there's something that all of us can relate to. If you have children, or if you're just in a relationship where you maybe not had a great night's sleep because you've been thinking about something that's going on in your family, something that's going in this relationship, and you wake up and you were just ready to get into it. And we all have probably experienced that hardly ever works, if not ever works. And what we've learned is that sometimes our zeal to wanting to heal something, to get something better, to improve a situation in our relationship or in our family's relationship, we would be ready to jump in and kind of just, let it happen and bring all that energy. And it didn't work. It didn't work most of the time, as I said. And here's the thing that's really interesting. The research around taking time to move your body, getting outdoors, having nature be more of an influence in how it is, that when you go back into the house, whether it's to work with your partner or to work with your family, your ability to be more compassionate, your ability to be more empathetic, your ability to be less reactionary, all of those things play into how it is that we really structure our lives to be a better person in all the engagement, what it requires to be a good person in the engagement. I remember when I was living alone and doing a lot of spiritual work in my mid-20s before I met Debra, and I thought I was just this, I always thought I had it going on because I was a really good meditator and I had a great practice, and I was alone. It was easy. I had nothing to deal with other than myself, and I had plenty of shit to work on, but oh my gosh, there was nothing more than what I had to do with me. And I think all of us know that when you bring other people into the work and the work that comes through relationship and through family dynamics, everything changes. And the work is so much more thoughtful and deeper and sometimes harder. So giving ourselves permission to create space for grace. So when you come back in to do work with your partner, do work with your kids, do the greatest work of your life, you do it from a place of less reactionary and much more presence and a whole lot more empathy. And I do believe we serve each other so much better from that place.
Oh, totally. I had so much going on in my mind when you were talking about that, because I was like, oh, well, do you want to talk about what you do after the walk and your breakfast and all of that? But it made me think of when you're talking about sometimes we'll walk in silence. So listen, we're not saying that we never fight is the wrong word. Argue, disagree.
Yeah.
Right?
We're
not fighters.
We're
That's
not
interesting.
we had fighters early in our life. We had some fights. We had arguing. But I don't think we've done that in so many years.
No, but we have those things where it's like, no, I'm right. No, you're right.
Sure.
No, like you want to be right. That's so normal and natural.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, so it's 32 years this July that we met and became friends.
And I forgot about that until right now. And that is really awesome because it's July, obviously, right now.
But what I was going to say about that is we've been together so long that we've gotten really good at not needing to be right. We let go so much faster. So that's just, I think, comes with time. But there's been times when one of us, we're just going to go for a walk and we don't we don't need to talk because we're in our heads, we're in it, we're thinking about it, or we just need to go through things on our own. And the walk we do every morning is just 1 mile. It doesn't take that long. And some days, I'm thinking in the 10 plus years that we've been at this property doing this walk, I can probably count on one hand that it's happened, but we'll do the walk mostly in silence because we need to get through whatever it is. And by the end of that walk, we've talked it out, and by the time we get back in the house, we're good.
Yeah, we've let something go that we
let it go.
Something fell off us in the woods.
Yeah.
Literally, we left
Right?
something in the woods. And I think, sweetheart, one of the things that I really love about the work that this is hopefully going to give everyone who's part of this community a chance to look at is that relationship does offer the best opportunity to do some of the very best work of our life. The key is finding someone in your life that is willing to do the work alongside of you. And sometimes work is a heavy word, but I want to soften the edges of work because I think the idea of work is about growth, it's about evolution, it's about doing some of the hard things. And this is something I really want to have land before we say goodbye. We're often asked about how is it that our family of origin story, they'll say, oh, did you grow up in these amazing families where highly functionality was absolutely the foundation? And this is not a knock against our family of origin. Our families had wonderful love, but they also had a ton of challenges. Neither one of us, how many divorces do we have between our two families? Is it 7?
I think so.
It's like it's 7. I mean, and that's a lot. And so there's been a lot of
It depends if you add siblings.
Well, that actually brings the number up even more. So here's the thing. It is work. And especially if you're coming from family of origin stories where you didn't have the best role modeling, and when you into the relationship, you had a lot of questions about your worthiness. Did you have it within you? Could you do this? Would you bail because your parents bailed and didn't stay in it and do the work? These are the things I want you to know about Debra and I. Our family of origin story, a lot of hard stuff. Not a lot of great role modeling. But there was always love.
Always.
And with a lot of single mom stuff that we had in our families and the different ways in which sharing of weekends and different holiday stuff, moving back between families. The thing I would love for you all to know about Debra and I is that we know how hard it can be. We came from families that were really, really hard as well. And we've had different times in our life where we really question whether or not we had it. Could we continue? Did we want to continue? And if you're in a place right now where the vulnerability is really up for you, and you're really questioning whether or not the person you're with or the person with yourself that you're spending time with all the time is worthy of relationship, see yourself as worthy of the greatest work of your life. And see this opportunity to engage with us as not necessarily teachers, that's not our role. We just want to share the science, we want to share the love, we want to share the spirituality, and we want to share what we've learned over 30 years that I can say, honey, I can look at you today and say, I have never been more in love. I've never been more happy. I've never been more trusting of myself and more trusting of someone in my life. Our kids are flourishing, and the work is awesome to do alongside of you. So I just want to say that. So,
thank you.
I'm such a crier.
I'm a lucky gal, and I feel the same, honey. And on top of everything, and again, this isn't a relationship podcast in the how-to sense, but I want to say don't settle. Really start with self-love, self-respect, self-awareness, and don't settle with anyone or anything that's going to make you feel less than. Mutual respect is a huge part of our relationship. Admiration, appreciation, cheering each other on, and not belittling. We see that, honestly, and it's really tough to be part of. But just don't settle. Relationships are an ongoing process, and really the greatest work of our lives, I think, and it's just helped me to grow as a person individually, and just the learning has become so fun. The science is like a side effect of like, oh, I didn't know that because we do X, Y, and Z that shows longevity in relationship. I don't think we started off saying like, yes, we're going to get married and that's going to be it for the rest of our lives. It's like, no, we're still choosing every day
To be married.
to be married.
To be in relationship.
Yeah.
To build trust.
And have fun
Yeah.
together. And that's the key too, is having fun and changing things up a lot.
Yeah, so that's so beautiful, honey.
Changing things up in ritual. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like being scattered, like, what are we going to do today? Like, you have the thing that you do, and then you bring joy into that.
Well, here's a key thing, and then we'll wrap this up about the idea of ritual and science, because I'm such a person, not unlike you, sweetheart, but I always love to have a little science to go along with something. I share it all the time. Here in the treehouse, here's what's fascinating. Every ritual makes your brain better. Every ritual makes you work through addictive habits that are unhealthy for you, helps you to move through those things. So having a ritual that you do for yourself and potentially doing a ritual with your partner really does change our physiology, changes our neurochemistry, helps us to become the version of ourselves that we want to bring into relationship, and the ability to discern if the person we're in that relationship with is doing the work too. And that is one of the most beautiful and highly discerning experiences when you go, oh my gosh, am I in this all together? And sometimes that does happen, but I think in the right, most beautiful, awesome relationships, we get a chance to curate and cultivate those kinds of experiences for literally a lifetime, if we make that decision to be that fully committed to seeing how it is that love does want to be more of what it is that we're about, and how love is the foundation of what everything we've ever wanted to be about. Love is the currency of all of those things.
Amen.
It's just so good.
So good. Well, thanks for letting me be here today. Get used to seeing me, because I'll be back. Thank you, honey, for inviting me into your world, into your treehouse.
I
know it's our
excited.
treehouse, but it's really your treehouse.
You know what? I think what's beautiful, honey, is that we want to make sure y'all know this is going to be a weekly event. We've decided this is going to be a ritual, a declaration of our commitment to this community. And we don't want to do this alone. We want to do this with as many people in relationship across the world who want to be around people who love the idea of doing the greatest, most beautiful, and awesome work of their life in a relationship, in a community. So we're just simply feeling grateful and blessed that you're here with us today. We love you.
Peace.
Blessings. Bye for now.